Want to talk about someone else who knew something, wasn't right with George Santos's resume and finances, and that was Grant Lally. I spoke with him last week. He's the
Mhm.
publisher of the North Shore Leader, and this is a small Long Island paper, I'm sure you know it, that broke the story of George Santos before the election, before this New York Times bombshell investigation. But it didn't get national attention. Why do you think it took until after the election for this to get national coverage?
Sure. So I think there's a problem across this country in terms of the demise of local media and local journalism, right? So many times in our history, it's been local reporters and the tenacity of those local papers to break those hyper local stories that captivate the nation. And so we need to do a better job, not only as government, but as American citizens, of supporting those local papers, making sure, and my family does this, making sure we're subscribing to those papers, making sure that we're placing advertisements when we can in those papers. I think it's unfortunate that this didn't break at scale until after the election. But quite frankly, the fact that this has come out now, I think what we've learned is that people knew and didn't warn, and people have a duty to warn all across this country in every different institution. They have a duty to warn, and it's patriotic. It's putting country over party, and it's those individuals who knew and did nothing who were just as at fault as George Santos here.
And you said earlier, Republicans and Democrats alike have really been outraged by this. And keeping in mind the redistricting process that New York did face, the seat was still flipped in the 3rd Congressional District. So, what type of leadership is that district looking for?
Yeah, and I've spoken about this, right? I'm a Democrat, and I'm calling on George Santos to resign. I join my Republican colleagues who are doing so. If he resigns and there's a special election, I don't know who would win, a Republican or a Democrat. It doesn't matter, right? What matters is that we have somebody of good conscience serving our district. And right now we have absentee leadership. George Santos being in Congress is not just flagrantly offensive, it hurts our district. Here on the North Shore, we need major federal money for storm resiliency and coastal infrastructure. We need the SALT deduction fully restored. We need major help from the federal government. The fact that George Santos is a pariah in the House of Representatives really endangers the welfare of this district. It means we won't get the federal funding we deserve. It means that we don't have a representative negotiating for Long Island and Queens in DC. And so not only is it outrageous that he serves, it actually hurts the constituents that I represent.
Let's say he does resign, and let's say there is a special election. Who do you think should replace him?
Sure. So I've gotten this question, and the answer is now is not the time for politics, right? That the focus should be entirely on getting him to resign, and he said he won't, which I think is outrageous, of course. And so what we have to do is encourage law enforcement, right? The U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District, or House Ethics, or the Nassau County DA, and all of law enforcement to expedite their investigations here. This must move quickly, and he must be held to account quickly. Then we could talk about politics, and you can have me back on your show. I'd be happy to talk about it.
I would love that. And let's talk about what's right next. This saga has really been unfolding for a month. What do you see happens next?
Sure. So I think that the media is queuing in on really where his criminal liability, I believe, exists, which is around campaign finance, right? He went from reporting $55,000 in income in 2020 to being a millionaire in 2022, right? He didn't just strike gold. The 700,000 that he loaned his campaign came from somewhere. And so I believe the more we hone in on these campaign finance flagrant violations, right? The fact that he has so many disbursements of $199.99, 1 cent below the threshold of having to produce a receipt. The fact that it's come out now that he's made tens of thousands of dollars of payments from his campaign fund to companies that were just originated, or the fact that Redstone Strategies raised money under the pretenses of supporting his campaign, but never ran one single advertisement. So I think what we're seeing is the focus is on campaign finance, and I believe it's where his criminal liability is. I believe, I hope it's soon, but I believe the next phase here is an indictment.
Well, we will continue to follow the updates and hopefully have you back as they unfold. Legislator Josh Lafazan, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.